Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to SCG Columbus. My name is Will Hall, better known on the internet as Will Hall EXP, and I'm joined by the one and only Islands in Front, Skura himself. We're the European morning crew, bringing you the first 4 rounds before we pass it off onto Dom and Tim. This is going to have 366 players, all battling out for their share of 20k cash. Gotta love to see it. That's 8 rounds today, 8 rounds tomorrow, followed by a cut to top 12, which is something very... We don't tend to see that too much in Magic. Normally it's cut to top 8. This is cut top 12, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But Wilds of a Drain is out now. It is legal. Skura, what cards are you excited to see this weekend? What are you hoping that players have brought?
Beanstalk, up the Beanstalk. That's one classic, I think, addition to 4-color that wants to draw cards, so why not draw even more? Besiege the Mirror, which I was happy enough to open in my pre-release pack. Is going to be really good in those like coffers, mono black decks, these type of strategies. On top of that, I don't think that adventures will shine. So I think there'll be like literally like 2-3 cards that are going to make a splash. Maybe some food synergies here and there.
Got a few synergies. One we haven't seen really take off too much in modern. It's people have dabbled. They tried to get Asmo decks going and they never seem as strong as they could be. But let's stay on this up the Beanstalk, right? This is the one that's got a lot of hype. I know New is big on this in Legacy, but we're playing Modern all weekend long, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very interesting card, right? 2 mana, we get to draw a card. If we play spells over 5, we get to draw more cards. At the minute, drawing cards isn't the best place it's ever been because of a certain 2-drop that's just come out in the Lord of the Rings set. How do you think players are going to try and tackle that moving forward? They're just going to take the hit, take a point of damage, hope they can get the advantage with the card draw. As we're going to see in our round 1, we've actually got a nice spice of this playing this for everybody. But how do you think, drawing cards with this is going to line up in this meta now?
Yeah, so basically what you want to do in this deck is draw cards and then use them to pitch them to elementals to actually catch back up. So basically, at the early stages of the game, you're going to draw cards, pitch them, then make up the tempo loss, and then pull ahead. That's the dynamic I'm really expecting to see here.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got the players on the screen first here. We've got Victor versus Neptune, and it does say 4-color Beanstalk. I'm pretty sure between these 2 decks, that's probably the only card that's missing on the right of your screen in Neptune's deck here. 4-color Control Mirror, so we're going to have to sit down. These tend to go quite long, quite a bit of back and forth. A lot of elementals being cast, a lot of triggers going to happen. Well, maybe potentially we'll see Beanstalk kind of pull away with the game here. Maybe that is going to be the deal breaker in this mirror. We don't have access to the deck list though, ladies and gentlemen, because it is a closed deck list tournament, so we're in the blind just like you. We have access to a few little nig bits here, as in Victor's deck list. I believe the full 75, or I think it's actually 85. I think he's got a 70 card main deck, so have that whatever you will. It's in the chat if you want to see it. But this is everyone's shuffled up, ready to go. As Anu did say, we do have a backup feature match for you all if this does, end really quickly. But I don't think we're going to be there, right? Normally these 4-color mirrors go quite long. Is there any kind of deal breakers or any sort of rules that you should be following in a mirror? Like, okay, I need to prioritize my Furies over my Solitudes or anything like that, Skura?
So first of all, it is going to take a while. I would not be surprised if it ends 001, because neither deck has a proper clock really, and both decks have a great way at nullifying the opponent's clock. So what I see in one of our heroes' sideboards is Emrakul, the Promised End, and so if we do see a Game 2 or Game 3, this will really shine. Now this is a real big if we see a Game 2 or Game 3. But other than that, turn into run in 6, because it's entirely possible that one person, for example, misses their land drops. But wait, why do I see double Dead Gone in Neptune's hand?
I think this is it looks like a Rhinos list to me potentially, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Maybe decks do get registered under different names online a lot of the time, but we'll see how it pans out. We do see a lack of lands here for Victor. Looks like it's just a 1-lander and doesn't really like that, so I'll throw it back. I completely appreciate that. And over on the other side, looks like we've got to keep against kind of a very aggressive draw, but if this is a Rhinos list or an Elemental list, I'm leaning towards Rhinos here. That looks like a very Rhinos hand to me. I don't know too many other decks that play Dead Gone, but we'll see. It looks like we're going to be keeping though.
Yeah, he does, and it's a decent hand against like a miscellaneous opponent, but if you're actually matching up against 4-color, it's not really that good. Dead Gone targets basically only Delighted Halfling, And, you know, Subtlety, Fury leave much to be desired. So in this particular matchup, I'd rather be on Victor's side.
We'll see how it pans out. I'm just going to have a little look here at the second hand drop. One new thing that you're going to notice this weekend while you watch coverage on this stream, ladies and gentlemen, is there are now mic cameras for the players. So we'll be able to hear what they're saying down on the ground. You know, one, obviously their triggers, but also potentially what's going through their head and keeping us up to the game. So it makes our life easier, makes your life watching easier at home as well. Again, just all these little nitpicks are things that can help coverage. The news digging out blind, trying to give you guys the best possible coverage he can, and these are the improvements from your support. So make sure if you do have a prime, you can throw it to him. If you want to just follow support, everything you need to do for this channel, do it, as we are kicking off the game with a turn 1 Beseju into a Delighted Halfling. And this is one card they've just seen in Lord of the Rings, right? Talk to me about this one and how powerful it's been in Modern.
Oh, it's very powerful because, first of all, it ramps you into turn 2 Teferi, which really trumps all the cascade strategies. But on top of that, it's uncounterable. So the blue decks with their spell pieces, forces of negation, counter spells can't really think about it. But what is really important here is that Keruga is on the right side of the table. So this might explain what we're seeing there. Deadgon meets the condition for Keruga.
Oh, that's the other one. I'm sorry.
This is a respect the cat type of list for Elemental Zone. We saw him do quite well in the European scene, which obviously where people normally see me and you. You saw him doing extremely well and taking down a few challenges online with his Keruga's deck. So I think that might be what we're seeing on Neptune's side here. As he just passes the turn back by getting that Delighted Halfling off the battlefield with Dead Gone. Do you see a mummy in hand here? We've got access to a Beanstalk potentially.
We do. But Beseju actually is really annoying because it doesn't provide a card type for Leyline Binding. So if you really want to diversify, you might consider, you know, passing the turn and finding a non-green Triumph to really diversify the colors for Leyline Binding. Or, as I think is the case here, you can play up the Beanstalk and ensure you hit the third land drop.
Yeah, let's go. What we can get ourselves one card deeper potentially to try and get the extra land we need. Because we do need an extra land to get this Teferi in our hand on the battlefield if we can go that route. So do we go for white? Do we go for blue? Do we go the Triumph route, as you said? But considering we're fetching main phase now, I believe that we are going to see our first Wilds of our Drain card. Remember, the pre-releases is this weekend. I actually got to go to mine last night. Hope everybody else has got a chance to go down to LGSs and start playing with some of these new cards. The flavour in this set, you know, storybooks sort of time. Have you got a favourite storybook when you grew up, Skewer? And chat, let me know.
Oh, that's a good question. I think the classic 2 children go to the forest and are almost burned by a witch and eaten half alive. I think that's my probably favorite children's story, you know?
I would have just said Hansel and Gretel, not about burning children, but here we go. I think mine's probably got to be Jack and the Beanstalk. That's a classic, right? I love Jack and the Beanstalk. And here we are. Beanstalk on the battlefield, card drawn. Didn't manage to hit our third land drop off it, though. It might just been another Beanstalk actually drawn off the first Beanstalk. And over on Neptune side, because we got the Keruga revealed, good chance we don't have a 2-drop, so it's just land, pass the turn, and we're having a read. Never be scared to read your opponent's cards, ladies and gentlemen. The amount of times I've lost games because I haven't read my opponent's cards, because I think I know what they do, and then it turns out they don't do what I thought, and I get completely blown out by it. Here comes the second Beanstalk. Still no third land drop, though. Remember, Victor on a Molder 6 here, passing the turn back to Neptune.
So we could see, very, very hypothetically, we could see Victor playing like Solitude or Fury, you know, alternative cost, just to draw 2 cards. Which would leave you card neutral, right? Because you draw 2, you pitch 2, but you may actually get your land drop. So this could be a desperate measure, but one that could be taken.
Yeah, we're going to potentially, we're definitely going to be seeing the power of this card if we start turning and burning. We just need targets for, like, we see we've got Solitude in hand, we see we've got a Leyline's Binding in hand, 2 Teferis and a Mummy. Elish Norn for people that just, aren't too... My mum's clearly not been made into a card. Elish Norn, better known as Mummy, so we'll be referring to her as that. Neptune has got his third land drop. He's going to go searching. Haven't got a hell of a good look at his hand, but we do have hand cams in this. This is all part of the production that's brought to you by the man, the myth, the legend, and new MTG himself. He's in the background doing all the hard work. We're just here being the, trying to be the faces of it as we see a Fable the Mirror Breaker come down. Now this is a card that we spoke about so many times in the last year that it's been played. It's been banned in some formats. It's shown up in pretty much every format. It's so good. Talk me through all the modes and why they're so good, Skura.
Right, so the first mode is making a goblin whose token is actually really expensive, and exactly, Neptune knows the struggle. It's difficult to find a proper token. Now we've got that. With every attack, it makes a treasure, so it basically ramps you. The second chapter allows you to discard any cards between 0, 1, and 2. And if you do, you draw that many back, and then it flips into basically Kiki-Jiki the Mirror Breaker. And so it's really good because it cannot be answered one by one. If you destroy Fable, they keep the Shaman. If you destroy the Shaman, they keep the Fable. And so it's really annoying. But now we see the play that I mentioned, but now with actual target. With an actual target.
Here's some triggers, ladies and gentlemen. So talk me through this. So we're ditching a Teferi to cast our Solitude for its alternate mana cost, but there are 2 up the Beanstalks on the table. The new card from Wilds of the Drain. That means this spell costs over 5 or more, so we get to draw 2 cards, which is quite good when we're missing our land drops, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, this looked nuts, even though it wasn't, because you basically spend 2 cards to draw 2 cards and remove like a third of a Fable. So it's technically unexciting, but it looked really exciting. And the more land drops we make, we start approaching the moment when you can actually hardcast these elementals, and then it will be a doozy.
And here comes Teferi. Kind of a very one-sided card if it does hit the battlefield. Neptune, I think, has a what's the blue elemental? By me.
A subtlety, yeah, subtlety.
Yeah, he's got a subtlety. I think he's looking at firing off here, and yet decides he does not want that Teferi on the battlefield. You can put it to the top or the bottom of your deck, please, Mr. Victor. Now, do you think top?
Yeah. Right, so I would be tempted probably to top, because Neptune cannot play multiple spells on a single turn because it's a Keruga deck, right? So you can top your Teferi, then replay it next turn and bounce whatever is played, if anything is played. But at the bottom of that, possibly to hit another land drop.
I'm saying it doesn't cost mana, so I don't want it in my hand. I only want things that cost mana right now. I want to be turning and burning. I want to be getting all this value. We're going to see Fable Moon Breaker tick up to 2. That means we can discard up to 2 cards and draw that many. We choose to discard 1, and draw 1. Then we crack our fetch straight away. So we got access to a couple 4 drops or 3 drops at least in this deck. We don't have access to the deck lists. This is a closed deck list tournament for people who just tune in. 366 players all battling out to see if they can win their share of 20k prize money here at SCG Columbus. Okay, what do you think is coming out of Neptune's hand here? What's the 4 drop of choice, if any?
Omnath.
That makes easy. We've seen this card a lot, and not too much in recent times. It's kind of been outshone by the Rakdos Evoke decks, but still super powerful 4 drop, especially in this deck. And looking at just the way these games, these first 4 or 5 turns have done for both players, both these decks are not respecting Bowmasters. They're like, sure, I'm drawing cards all day long. This trigger, that trigger, draw. Where, Bowmaster is one of the more prominent cards in the meta currently. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out for him throughout the weekend. As we see on Victor's side here, now we're going to start casting.
That's wild.
It's only going to cost 3 mana, but how about 3 mana, draw 2, exile your Omnath? That's a pretty good
That's
set.
wild. Like, you asked me about the Mirror Breakers, and I didn't expect that, but Up the Beanstalk seems to be the actual Mirror Breaker here. Like, it's impossible to grind through. Like, Neptune will have to play multiple prismatic endings, but he cannot have prismatic endings in the deck. And now we see Fury, draw 2, kill your Omnath. This is nuts.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing here is sticking a threat, though. But we're able to do 2 for 1 ourselves here to be able to get their cards off. We regenerate our card draw. We're seeing Up the Beanstalk being a real card in this deck, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, this is the first weekend. You can see Wilds of the Drain. Anu is going to do his best to get as many of those cards on this stream this weekend as possible. We've got 8 rounds today, another 8 rounds tomorrow, plus a cut to top 8. So much magic to come to you. How many of these Beanstalks do you think we're going to see cast over the weekend as another Fable comes down?
Well, I think the number will actually be possibly 2, the ones we're seeing now. And so the main reason, let me explain the reason. So the main thing is that the only shell you can play it in is 4 color, and I don't think players will be actually bringing 4 color. So that's the main thing. The card can be really good, but if you don't have a proper shell to play it in, it doesn't really matter. And so players might be hesitant to bring 4 color. One reason is that it's a really fair deck, you know? And some other decks have all those free wins, like Scam, like Living End, like Rhinos, and you're passing up on those, and all of your games are close, right? And you might not want to register a deck with very close games where, you know, a single mistake can put you out of contention.
It's going to be interesting to see how it pulls forward. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say we're going to see more than 2 casts this weekend. You know, I think people want to play with this new card. Yeah, it can be kind of hard to get, so this is going to be the first weekend it kind of can be out. But, you know, it's Modern, right? Modern's such a huge format. So many cards printed in it. If you can get that edge and get the new best card in the new best shell, people aren't expecting it. You can run away with a tournament like no man's land. We've seen it so many times happen in Magic history. Let's see if Victor can potentially maybe do it this weekend, but he does have to get through Neptune first on his 4-color Keruga deck. 3 mana here. Here comes Nissa. Okay, talk to me about this one. This is one I haven't personally seen too much of it played in Modern. I do own a couple of these cards, but I've never actually got to play with it. Talk me through the triggers and why this card is so popular in these 4-color elemental decks.
Yeah, so it's basically like a big sister of Lotus Cobra, but the kicker is that with the second trigger, the second landfall, and you're used to double landfalling because you also play Omnath, you get to flip your deck until you find an elemental, and conveniently enough, you play a lot of very powerful elementals. Solitude, Omnath, Muldrifter,
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
and Fury, right? So basically, it's like a Lotus Cobra elemental tutor split card. I mean, I actually not really split. It does both. So
we're going to get ourselves a triumph here. That gives us access to a bit more of our mana, so potentially more future lands. Bindings are going to be reduced a little bit less. This second trigger here for Nissa, which you can hear Victor saying, because we do have mic cameras down on the table for both these players now. Trying to give you that little bit more experience so we can get more high production to you all watching the stream. And welcome all of you. Thank you for tuning in today. This is round number 1, so you picked a very good time to tune in. We're going to have 8 rounds of Modern for you today, so make sure you stick around and don't go anywhere as we see another Fury go to hand for Victor.
I'm also seeing a different trend now because Fury wasn't played as much in 4-color anymore, and also Fury in general was on a downswing. But because of Up the Beanstalk, I think we got to full 4 Furies with full 4 Solitudes because, you know, you're drawing so many cards. It's a free 5 drop, however that sounds. You know, cheers to all the Pioneer players. And so Up the Beanstalk really, I think, affects the deck construction.
I'm all here for it. It's looking great right now in multiples, especially remember Victor on a mode of 6 here, but now every basically card he plays is going to generate another 2 cards to come along with it, plus the card for his turn. We're going to see this Fable go up to 2, discard up to 2, discard another Fable, draw an extra 1, and we see just a couple of Teferis and a Fury in hand. Not ideal right now, because especially with so many ETBs on the other side, Teferi's down tick, not really creatures you want to be bouncing back, or any of these enchantments, because remember, Up the Beanstalk itself, when it hits the battlefield, also draws a card. So we're going to see a hard cast Fury. All 4 damage looks like it's going to be going to the Nissa.
Black, green, blue, red, white.
Okay, counting the colors. Okay, so what about Leyline Binding draw 2?
Yeah, this is pretty good.
It's nuts.
I love that we can hear the players, right? So you might see me and Stuart. We might not talk as much as you normally, you know, it's really hard to shut us up most of the time. But now that we get to hear the players chat, there's a good chance we might just, you know, chip in. Think GP Reed Duke back in the day, like how that was so good, so intimate because we could hear the players. We're going to try and, you know, replicate that this weekend. This is one of the improvements we're going to make. So we saw there, Fury 4 damage, Leyline's Binding in response, draw an extra 2 cards, and now a 6-card hand for Victor. Everything's turning down. I see another one in hand.
Wow. So there is one particular interaction I really want to see. So I really want to see Victor like completely overpay for Prismatic Ending just to make the mana cost higher and draw off the Beanstalk. Like, you know, exile 1, draw, but pay 5. Because why not? Draw 3. That's what I want to see.
Well, you said we're not going to see more than 2, so I'm hoping there's 3 just so I look really smart here. As we're going to, oh, here we go, fancy basic. And you know, I ask this every single time I do coverage, because I'm interested in this. I want to know what everybody's basic land choice is. I know yours. We all know yours, but let everybody know just in case they don't know. What's your favorite lands that you like to play in your decks?
I always play beta islands, beta basics. I've got like a collection of like 50 plus. I also play my pre-releases and limited events with this as my land station. So that's cool.
Draw one.
Sick. Mine very much vary. But here we go. Here is Mummy hitting the battlefield, drawing 2 cards. As you know. Okay, here's a question for you. Now, if I play a 5-drop, do I get to draw 4 cards because Mummy's on the battlefield? How does this interaction work?
Let me just double check the wording because I don't think you do. You would draw 2 with the up the Beanstalk itself, but you wouldn't with anything else because it's a cast trigger. So that's unfortunately not how it works, I believe.
That's why I'm asking you these questions. I've got the advantage. I just ask the questions and don't have to actually work them out. But I think you're right. It is a cast trigger, so cast isn't an ETB. As we're going to see, it's a fairy on the other side coming down. If it resolves or not, we can see Victor wants to have a response. He's going to.
If I were in Neptune's seat, I would genuinely consider move on, because if you prolong this game, which you are not ever going to win, you're just stripping yourself out of the option to win the second and third game, because it's going to take a long time, and clock should be a consideration.
That's actually a really. We spoke about it at the start. This potentially could just be an 0-0-1 draw. How these games tend to go. At what point do you kind of think, okay, I'm so far behind right now that my chances of getting back into this are less than 5%. I need to win the next 2 games. Scoop it up. I know what's going on now. I understand what's going on. Let's go on my sideboard. Try and resolve the next 2, or as we see here, eat the clock away. Do you think potentially Neptune has got a faster way to win, so he can try and take his time on here? Because Victor, it looks like it's going to take a long time to win, and try and use the clock to his advantage, or you just nap. I know where I'm dead. Scoop it up. We're going to game 2.
So my personal philosophy is that if I were to stack my deck and couldn't win, I'm conceding, and I think we're at this point now. Like, Neptune could have the best cards on top, like 11 Fable of the Mirror Breakers, and he's not going to win this one. So, like, he cannot keep up with the threats and answering the opponents. Like he's dead. He's really dead here.
It is, yeah. It's look at he's got so many more cards in hand opposed to the 2. Every card's basically drawing cards, or at least the powerful ones that he's going to be playing. That have got 5 or plus CMC. It's one question I need to look this up. Is Beanstalk a may or a must? Like, what's the random chance he ends up drawing all the cards in his deck here?
Well, that is indeed a good question, but it says draw a card. There is no may, so that's a good catch.
Okay.
Now it could be circumvented by playing an endurance on yourself, but there is no endurance in the main deck, so I guess there is a chance that happens. Slim, very slim, extremely slim.
Very slim, especially when you've got a 70-card main deck, as we see Victor registered this weekend. Kind of, bit unusual to what we normally see. Normally we see 60, and then back we did see 80 uptick when Yorian was around and people built their mana bases that way, but decided to go for the 70, as we're going to see Mummy come down for the second time this game, followed by a delighted halfling, as we've already spoke about the power of that card.
Well, to be fair, we don't know Neptune's list because we assume the default list or like some kind of stock version, but we could see End Step Restoration Angel untap Kiki Jiki, right? Technically. I mean, well.
If it happens, I think I will lose. Look, you're a fan of that basic that just hit the battlefield.
Yeah, give me those version 1 orange purplish basics. I love those. I'm actually literally shuffling them right now.
You just need to be there. You need to be there this weekend. We need to get you over to Columbus, start battling out.
I should have, yeah.
Another Teferi comes down to the battlefield. It's going to bounce Mummy yet again. Another card's going to be drawn for Neptune. Doing their best to survive, stay in this game. Hitting their land drops. Haven't got a good look at what's currently in their hand, but I'm sure we'll see it shortly. We do see the one ring over in Victor's hand. A lot of talk about that.
A Mold Drifter.
Quite a lot.
There's a Mold Drifter even, yeah.
Just do it. I would cast Mold Drifter just for the bounce. You know what I mean? Mold Drifter, draw 4 cards, seems great to me.
I'm really surprised that, like, it cannot possibly be a winning plan when you bounce the opponent's 5-drop that draws 2 on entry. Like, I'm really surprised that Neptune's continuing to play this game. Maybe he has a plan. Victor is at 12. You cannot bolt him down because there are no bolting in the Keruga deck. So that's out. It would take 6 fires. So that's difficult to achieve. I'm trying to come up with any plan whatsoever. And actually, maybe milling is the plan. Actually, maybe this. Yes.
Oh my word. Okay.
We're doing it. Yep.
We joked about it, ladies and gentlemen, but then it looks like there's a big stack there. You know, in 70 cards. I don't think we're in any danger, but I do think we need to start getting some of our threats on the battlefield to be able to turn this into a W. Both players, you know, reasonable life, 12 versus 11. So, you know, it's not out of the realms of a couple of attacks with get this. Potentially, even this a Delighted Halfling could, you know, getting a few bits of chip damage, could take out the Teferi if he wants to go that route. We'll see which way we want to go. Here's 5 mana. Here comes Mummy for the 3rd time, draw another 2. Delighted Halfling and a Renin 6 drawn. So let's be honest, this is just money pile, right? Every card coming off the top right now is just worth a fortune in Modern. Here comes the Halfling, takes out Teferi. That's going to go to the graveyard. 2 cards left in hand for Neptune.
But he's not even bothering to play the Wuthering, because why would you draw cards and lose life if you can draw cards and not lose life, right? So, yeah, I mean...
Stick to yourself right now, you love drawing cards. Just because it's going to lose you the game, you still get to draw the cards. And I thought that's let's what a blue player loves to do. You just want to draw cards endlessly.
That is fair, but I think Victor's actually going through all the sequences he might lose this game. And he's like, okay, if I get like, I don't know, end step Solitude, play Fury. Okay, that's impossible with Elish Known. So, actually, I mean, oh my God, I can't even come up with a hypothetical scenario. It's really difficult. Ooh, fancy view.
Oh, look,
Beautiful basic on the left.
Pulling all the stops out here, so we get a good look at their hand. Or what's on the battlefield, sorry. As well as the view mirror. We've got hand cams, we've got player mics now. So much high level production. If you want to support this type of coverage, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to hit that follow button. If you've got spare Prime, I need you to use that Prime on this channel so we can keep getting news to these events, so he can keep bringing you this super high level coverage. Because let's be honest, there's no comparison right now. Look how good this looks. Look what everything's going on this battlefield. We're going to see Renin 6 come down. And now we get
yeah. Renin 6 was like, okay, that's enough, right? That was the nail in the coffin.
I want you to answer me a question. How much value was on the side of Victor there on the battlefield? We had Renin 6s, we had Mummies, we had Fetches, we had, you know, so many cards. I'm going to guess that probably around about $300 to $400 on one side before Neptune decided to pick it up. But this is sideboarding now. Remember, it's a best of game 3 matches to decide who wins this match. We don't have access to the deck lists. We do have access to Victor's. He's kindly give us that, so that is in the chat if you want to see it. I believe it's ! deck list or deck or something like that. I'm sure Anu will be posting shortly, so you can all have a good look. And there it is at the 70 card main deck. So let's talk about his sideboard, because we have access to that one. What cards do you like bringing in the mirror here, Skura?
So I definitely like Emrakul, the Promised End, which I've talked about already. Because it's a really strong card that you play on turn, let's say 6 to 8-ish, and then just, you know, waste the opponent's resources fully. And because both are elemental decks, you can go like, you know, with your own hand, I'm going to pitch cast Fury, pitch cast Solitude, you know, maybe counter my own Fable, pass. Like, Emrakul can be basically Thought Distortion with a 13/13 body attached to it. So that's good. That's really good. Also, maybe Dovin's Veto. That's another good option. Boseiju is decent against an opposing Leyline Binding, especially if the opponent Leyline bound your creature that has an ETB effect, right? So you can go, okay, destroy your binding, get my Fury back, trigger again, destroy your Planeswalker, or maybe, you know, bring my Omnath back. So yeah, I would say Boseiju, maybe Dovin's Veto, and Emrakul.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking. I remember that, you know, we saw he was drawing a lot of cards in that matchup there. Does he want endurances for any kind of reason? Potentially, the games go longer. That giving him the option to kind of 2-for-1 himself a couple of times, and then we put the good cards back in his deck. We'll see. But is there any cards in here you don't like? Is there anything that you like? This is not the matchup for it. Let's get them out of here.
Well, so it's mostly removal because it's dead. But I'm also thinking that because you draw so many cards, you can afford to have removal that's maybe redundant, to have it just in case because you're drawing so much anyways. I'm looking through the list. I mean, personally, I would just trim these random one-offs like Muldrifter and Nissa, but I guess the point of playing them wasn't to cut them.
What about like
So-
lightning bolts? Like lightning bolts, is that good enough to keep in the deck? We do have planeswalkers to point out. We've seen Furies, we've seen
Solitude. Yeah, it kills Solitude, Fury, Goblin Shaman token, Flipped Fable, and kills off Planeswalkers. So that's pretty wide application. So probably Prismatic Ending is cut first because the
Yep.
opponent's deck is only 3+. So that's
Makes sense.
supremely inefficient. Now coming back to the milling point. So Victor could have been milled, but crucially, this deck is 70 cards for some reason. So, the mill yourself plan is even less achievable, less likely.
Hey, look, people, they say everyone's crazy that does things until they work, right? For all we know, this deck's going to win this tournament, it's going to take off, and then next week everybody's playing 70 card lists. And then you're going to, I'm sure the only person that might disagree with it will be the one and only Frank Carson, because, that man is a math wizard, and he'll tell you exactly what sort of numbers you need to have in what. So it looks like we're going to just shoot across to our backup match while the players are shuffling and sideboarding there. So it looks like we've got Dimir control, kind of one of the new favorites for One Ring decks versus Boros Burn. Don't get a good look at who's taking down game number 1. But what do you think here, Skur? Who do you think's favored?
Yeah, so I think I'd rather be on the Boros Burn side. Because Boros Burn is really aggressive and demands very, very specific answers. And Control, well, has to have very specific answers at the very right junctures, right? So if Boros Burn has a creature draw, you just have to happen to have drawn the right number of removal spells, right? But there might be draws when you have the removal, but they just sling burn at you. So on the other hand, though, I think it's a matchup where you can really get a lot of percentage points if you play well. So Burn, I really like playing against Burn. It's really skill testing because a single point here and there can really change the course of a game.
We've seen a lot of different builds of this. Obviously, Wafu has got quite a good list that's been doing very well recently, and we've seen Spike kind of adapting this as well. The main card that is I'm saying it's back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm saying it's back, and you can't change your mind. Is Snapcaster Mage is back in Modern.
Ooh.
So what I mean, that makes me happy. I am an old school boomer. I love seeing that sort of that card back in the Modern format. Super powerful. It used to be a staple, now it's back. Doesn't line up too great against Bowmasters, but then nothing with 1 toughness does these days. And where I'm going with this is on Danny's side, generally they don't have a fast clock. You know what I mean? They're very controlling. Like, I've got counter spells, I've got my kill spells, then I'll try and outvalue my opponent that way. But on the other side, Nathan is gonna be throwing everything to face. He's just gonna be living off the top of his deck. You can only take so many of these free drops. You're gonna be able to counter so many of these 1 mana cost free damage to your face type cards. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this pans out. I can't say I've actually seen it, myself, as we're going to suspend a Rift Bolt here, and that's good and bad, right? Yes, my opponent's missing land drops, but bad because that means they've got all spells in hand.
Yeah, so it's a 2-sided coin, or maybe like a 3-sided coin, because yes, on the one hand they're missing land drops, on the second hand it's all spells, but the third aspect of that is that even if it is all spells, they have to have the time to unload all of it. And this is why it's really good to have a clock of some sorts. Here it's just 2 damage, but maybe it's good enough to make the opponent unable to deploy everything they've got. Because again, who cares if you've got 11 spells in your hand if you don't have the mana and time to play it all out, right?
Okay, cool. Game's over. It's over. I'm literally calling it straight now. A Shield Dread on the battlefield against a burn opponent that's missing land drops. Unless for some reason we boarded in Path to Exile, I'm not sure we've got any other way of getting this off the battlefield. And this is going to be able to run away with the game, not only as a fast clock, but also gaining life 2 a turn while your opponent's losing 2 a turn. We've got shut. This is game number 1, so there's definitely going to be no Path to Exiles in the main. I'm calling it. Is there any crazy line that they can get back into this? It doesn't look like it's good, not especially when we're just doing 3 to the face, dropping Danny down to 5. Danny is up.
Yeah.
It's going to go up to 7. Any draw spells gains them an extra 2 life. Things like Preordain that we've just seen unbanned. Crazy.
Yeah. So the moment I saw Rift Bolt not going at Shieldred, I knew that something was up. Because normally you just 3 Shieldred and then kill it off from some card in hand, but oh my god. Wow.
Okay, so we're going to see the 1 ring is going to come down. It is going to draw a card. That's an extra 2 life. And the great thing about the 1 ring is we get to draw the cards before we lose the life. But when you got a Shieldred on the battlefield, it's just turboed out. And yeah, we're coming
Also,
across
the clock is real. Like the clock is real. It's 4 plus it's 5 plus the draw step. So it's literally like 2-turn clock. So Danny might actually not even need to gain any life. He'll just win on damage, just in like 2 attacks.
And I think, yeah, we've kind of realized that, like, no matter what, even if I draw my second land, I can only do max of 6 damage this turn. You're going to untap, I'm going to die. GG's game. And then that's a really quick game going to Danny. Unfortunate there for Nathan on the right on the screen on Boris Burn, not managing to go past that first land drop, but that's the risk you take when you play Burn, right? High risk, high reward, as we get to go back to our main feature match, Victor versus Neptune, 4-color Beanstalk versus 4-color Omnath Keruga Control. Let's have a little look at the opening hands as they're going to draw 7. Remember, player mics are live on this table, so you will get to hear what the players are talking about, what they're thinking, what lines are going through or on the table, stacks, etc. And maybe we're getting a mulligan here for Victor.
Actually,
5.
Well, if you're mulliganing down to, let's say, 6-ish, maybe 5, that shouldn't matter that much, because neither player puts a real clock, and you can recoup the card advantage easily, right? With the up the Beanstalk, with Renin 6s, with Fables. So, especially in this matchup, because normally if you move to 5, it doesn't matter you've got all the draw in the world, because you're going to die. But in this case, you might actually draw out of it, especially on the Victor's side, because he's got much more draw than Neptune.
And we saw that quite a lot in that game number 1 with Beanstalk coming down. Remember, the new set is legal this weekend. Wilds of a Drain, lots of pre-releases going on this weekend, but with the new rules that Wizards have kind of given everybody that's running tournaments, is we can now play them. They are legal from today. So Victor has turned up with 3 Beanstalks in the main. They ran away with game number 1. Are they going to do it here in game number 2? Victor up 1 game. Just a fetch triumph. End of turn here for Neptune. Remember, Keruga on the battlefield, so most the spells in his deck will cost, well, in fact, they will all cost 3 or more, but there's a couple of ways to cheat around that sort of, that text, right, Skira?
Could you reiterate the last point again?
Keruga. Every spell in our deck has to cost 3 or more.
Yeah, exactly.
Stick around that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we can circumvent that very easily because of some weird rules interactions, which are, let's just say, counterintuitive. So, like, Dead Gone is 1/. Okay, Dead Gone maybe is a bad example because it is 1/3. But Fire Ice, right? It's 2/2, but for some reason it counts as 4 in the deck, so you're good. But you're never casting it for 4. But still, it counts as a 4. So you're circumventing that. Also, Leyline Binding, technically 6. But it's never 6, right? Fury, technically 5, it's rarely 5. And so...
Yeah. And Keruga is just going to handle turn number 3. Kind of very, play we see quite a lot. It is more a mid to late game card to be able to refill our hand with more. We do see a Beanstalk in the hand here for Victor on turn number 3 if he wants to go that route. I think he was hoping to try and hit a better third land drop than this Besage, especially when there's a Leyline's Binding on the other side of the battlefield, but... We've only a halfling under it. Might not be the way he wants to go. Could use his own Leyline's Binding here. I think we've got 4 mana, 4 different color types, so we can play it for 2.
Yeah, there is an argument to kill the opponent's Binding mainly to prevent the Keruga draw later. And we see land drop plus Beanstalk, because you could have Beanstalked and then hope to draw a Triumph off the top, for example, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I also think that, but I think because we still can't even cast the Leyline for 1 here, right? It still costs 2.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, exactly. You're like black anyway. So I'd rather just play Beanstalk and hope to spike a Triumph, or even a fetch into Triumph, right?
Yeah, well, let's see what happens. So we're going to see an Ice.
Yeah, it's Ice on a blue source, I think.
I think that's the white source, right?
Okay. It was on Sacred Foundry. Oh, it is clever because you're cutting the opponent off of 2 colors at the same time, right? It's white and red. But we're going to respond by binding the binding.
Red, white, blue, green. Yep.
Yeah, and this actually introduces a very weird sub-game where both players have got Boseijus and Bindings, and you can
And
keep
Teferis.
dancing around. And Teferis, yeah, so you'll keep dancing around, and any board state can completely flip around on a single turn if this, House of Cards collapses.
This is a very interesting couple of sequences, but both players just feeling out, right? They're both just playing the land drops, just getting what they need on the battlefield to try and run away with the game. As we see another Leyland's Binding come down here to take out that Delighted Halfling. One of the, I played Yawgmoth last weekend with Delighted Halfling, and my word, that card is great. Yeah, the tapping it for mana bit, that's pretty cool.
17.
It's just having the 1/2 body felt so great, being able to dodge things like Renin 6, like Bowmasters, being able to trade with things like Ragavan. It really shined last weekend. I really felt, well, this card it's legit, it's so good. And in multiple different decks, as we do see it here in the 4-color Beanstalk list, highlighted by Victor on the left of your screen. But what can Neptune do here? How can he respond? He's got his 5th mana now, and it's going to be just a hard cast Keruga.
Well, so this is basically build your own up the Beanstalk, right? Because you're trying to play a spell to draw a card off of it. But Victor is doing that much, much better. And genuinely, I think up the Beanstalk might be the reason to retire Keruga completely. Okay, we're counting mana because we can, hardcast Fury. We could play Ren, pick up a land, then alternative cost Fury, hold up Binding. I think we can do all of that. There are options. There are multiple options there.
Let's see what wants to go through. Remember, we do have mics of the players down this. We can actually hear what they're saying, so we can listen to see which route they want to go.
Yeah, and Victor mulled to 5, but I don't think it feels like he mulled to 5. Like, he's got probably as many cards as Neptune does, and there are many, many more to come. Because Fury will draw a card, and half of the rest of the deck will draw. So.
Yeah, this up the Beanstalk is doing a lot of work, especially because we managed to tailor it with a couple of with this Leyland's Binding, just drawing us a bit further ahead there. Here comes our 5th land drop. Fetching. That means that we now got the fetch land in the graveyard in case we do deploy that Renin 6. We've got a target if you want to tick it up. But 5 mana is like the go-to for both of these decks, right? 5 mana means we can start hard casting things like Fury, Solitude. Slightly better on Victor's side because he does have that Beanstalk. Remember the new card we've spoken about, and we're going to speak about it a lot this weekend. That Wilds of Eldraine is now out. Kind of take 2 with the adventure mechanic. That mechanic is now back. It'd be interesting to see if any of those cards manage to make their way into Modern. We have seen things like Brazen Borrower, potentially sometimes Bone Crusher Giant shows up in Modern. Yeah, there's a couple of very good adventure cards printed. If they make their way into Modern, only time shall tell. Is there any that you're looking forward to seeing this weekend, chat? Let me know. We can see you all in there. We can see all the messages going up. So if you've got questions for us, let us know. I'm very interested to see who's got the spice, who thinks that they've got the best new tech with this new set out. At the minute, it looks like it's Victor with this up the Beanstalk, as we're going to see a Evoked Fury come down, take out that Keruga on the other side, but we do get to draw a card for our trouble.
Yeah, now Renin 6 comes down. You can pick up your Misty Rainforest, but you've got, I think there was a Boseiju in hand as well. Let me just, I don't remember, because if there was, there wasn't. There wasn't. Okay, I think there was a second one, because if you are able to recur Boseijus, you're getting really good against the Leyland Binding.
Okay, this is where we're going to see some shenanigans happening. I'm going to bounce back my Leyland's Binding to my hand, draw a card. We're going to get dice on that to very really shortly for you all. Try to generate value, because the Delighted Halfling, realistically I think this Leyland Binding is going to be targeting either taking out the Renin 6 or the Beanstalk. But it's going to go for the Renin 6. Are we just estimating the Beanstalk here? Are we just okay, cool, it's whatever, it's just a 2-drop like sometimes draw cards? Or do you think that's actually the target we should be targeting?
I would genuinely take away up the Beanstalk, because Renin 6 just just gets you an additional card every turn, but it's a land, and it's always just a land. And both players have got like 6+ lands in play. But up the Beanstalk, woof. Like, yeah, I would take up the Beanstalk. I think it's really good. It's really good.
Did we not have the mana to fire that? It looks like we used the ice side. So instead of killing it, we decided to tap it, potentially try and dig for, dig deeper on cards. That's quite interesting. What do you take on that?
Yeah, I think it's basically the need to draw. And that also shows how behind Neptune is. Like, he has to take desperate measures to draw cards, while Victor is like, well, everything draws a card, so like, why not? So, yeah, Victor is in a really comfortable position, while Neptune is taking desperation plays.
Not exactly where you want to be when you are a game down. Victor is up game number 1, as we saw up Beanstalk doing super powerful work in that grindy sort of every card I play draws an extra 2 cards, so many so that it looked like potentially he might end up decking himself. But fully got control of this game, I would say, with another Leyland's Binding coming down, getting the Remnant 6 back, Remnant 6 ticking down, killing the Teferi on the other side of the battlefield. 5 mana left open for him as he passes back and turn back to Neptune with just 6 lands on the battlefield. 5 mana, Fury. Looking at Solitude in hand for Victor. Plus, it looks like the Emrakul that you did speak about. Fury is going to resolve. We're going to do 2 damage to the Remnant 6, 2 damage to the Halfling.
Yeah, so if I were in Victor's seat, my game plan is basically staying alive. That's the only and main plan, because he's up a game. There are like around 9 minutes on the clock. He just needs to clinch onto the first win, and he's good.
Well, Solitude's going to be able to help that, especially if we do it end of turn, and it's going to get us to draw another card, because again, I've said it about 6 gazillion times now, this Beanstalk card is shining. All our powerful cards are coming along with extra cards off the top of our deck. This is 70 cards, so plenty of powerful cards in the deck to be drawn, as we're going to see a untapped Hallowed Fountain. That gives us the second white that we need, so now we can cast a Solitude and draw a card off the top of our deck for our trouble. Neptune's going to gain an extra 3 life here, though. There has to be some sort of upside to this.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't. This card I think seems a bit misdesigned, because it clearly slots into the reactive strategies, and the reactive strategies by default don't care about the opposing life total. So I'm not sure that downside is really any downside.
No, I think all 5 of them see play in some sort of another. They're all crazy powerful. Modern Horizons 2 All-Stars. Obviously, we've got Modern Horizons 3 coming out in the next year, is it? Modern Horizons 3? I don't know the exact release date of it.
Yeah, it's next year. Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? It'd be crazy to see what sort of stuff's going to happen there. If you love it or hate it, we are getting the Modern Horizons 3. Modern Horizons 2 did shake up the format a lot. Crazy amounts. It made some decks unplayable. It made completely new decks, and we're still finding new decks, like the blue-black kind of one ring deck that is kind of ticking up in popularity recently. I've even seen Reanimator, blue-black Reanimator, Death Shadow type decks popping up a lot. Neptune decides, look, I'm going to draw 3 cards here. There's no Bowmasters on that side of the battlefield, so I'm going to get a couple more cards in my hand, kind of keep up with this the card drawer Victor here, who just has a land, Fury, and an Emrakul in hand. How far are we from casting that Emrakul? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7,
yeah, I'm also
8,
counting.
and 9, 10, 11, 12. We're not far off it.
We're not far off, yeah.
A Leyland's Binding in the graveyard plus land drop should be able to get us there if something crazy like that happened.
Yeah, maybe if Neptune actually destroys like up the Beanstalk with Museiju, we're getting another type. I mean, well, to be fair, you don't really need to play Emrakul. Like, this is just like an icing on an already iced cake. Like,
look,
you
we're
can.
on coverage, okay? You're on coverage. You've got a camera pointing at you. Everyone gets to see it. Chat wants to see it. I want to see it. We all need that Emrakul to be cast before this game is over. Win or lose, we need it for my bingo card. Will Emrakul be cast? As we're going to see Solitude come across, 3 points of damage. Life swing is going to happen. Victor up to 18. Neptune's going to drop down. I think he should be going to 16, but we'll see how if the life totals pan back up. Might just be at 19. I might have got it wrong. But now,
Yeah, and I saw Omnath, and so Omnath might be a great way to actually ramp up to Emrakul the following turn. So not this turn yet, but next turn we might actually see Emrakul in action.
Well, I need chat. Do you want to see this Emrakul? Let me see. I need to see some emotes going up in chat. If you want to see this Emrakul, we need to channel our energy to Victor here, so he knows that we're all watching, that we knows that we all want to see the powerful 13 drop from. I think. Is it Moon? Which set was it that was actually released in? Eldraine? Was it?
Oh, may have been. I'm not really good at lore and sets recognition.
Someone in chat will tell us what set is that Emrakul from, ladies and gentlemen. Let us know as Leyline Binding is going to come down. Take care of that Omnath. But of course, after we get to draw another card because it does come along with an ETB effect. Eldritch Moon. I think I was like half close there. Half close. I'll take that.
Oh, it counts. I think if you get the block, it counts.
It counts. I mean, I just remember that sort of era of Magic, and like Standard was a lot of fun back then. Delight Halfling. And then land drop. So next turn, one land drop off if we want to go that way, that this Emrakul could be cast. But then we did see the blue elemental over on the other side with the Neptune main deck. So maybe that could be playing on in his mind.
Well, it could, but you still get the cast trigger. So I'm not sure you're really angry if they saddle to your Emrakul.
It's slightly better, right? It's slightly better than having a 13/13 flying protection from sorceries and instance, I think it is, on the battlefield. We'll see when it comes down.
Yeah, perks from instance. If you take over Neptune's turn, you could go like, island cycle, fail to find, then island cycle, fail to find, say, oh, oops.
It would be miserable. It would be,
I guess that happened.
To take your turn, it's normally miserable. But we're going to see a stomping ground fetched up here. The really beautiful stomping ground for that. It's going to hit the battlefield untapped. 2 points of damage here. So it looks like we've got something we want to be doing with our mana here.
Yeah, but that thing is not going to be very impactful. It's going to be like Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Yeah, so Fable is excellent on turn 3 or turn 2. On turn 11, certainly shines much less.
Also remember we've got the Omnath trigger, so that was the first land drop of the turn, right? Was the fetch land? Yeah, so the mana's floating, tap the extra one, that's 5 mana.
Wow.
Draw 3 cards. So we're keeping,
that's good. That's good.
But then I just see a lot of fire and ices, and it's not, not as powerful as an Emrakul, but do you know what?
Yeah.
One extra thing, if we did cast this Emrakul, we get to draw a card off the Beanstalk. Just
that is fair.
Just gotta put it out there.
I mean, if you want the full value, you can make it uncounterable with Halfling.
Oh yeah. Oh, sign me up. Sign me up. I forgot Halfling does that bit as well, so we can literally cast this Halfling next turn. Come on, Victor. One time to chat.
Sure.
Fable Mirrorbreaker comes down. Brings along with it a 2/2 Goblin Shaman token. 1 mana up. Come on, Victor. You can do this. Just untap, play it, watch chat go crazy, and then you can draw your card from the Beanstalk as well. And then you get to take Neptune's turn. It'll be great. Could have a
Victor is really keeping his composure. It's like poker face. He doesn't really telegraph anything exciting happening, but that's good. That's good. And then he'll maintain the poker face and just play the best card in the matchup, hands down.
That's how I tend to play. I tend to play like, straight faced when I do it, especially like when I'm very competitive. Funsies, that's fine. You'll see a smile on my face. When it's competitive will comes out, I'm very much the same. It's like, poker all the way through. I'm making you guess what's in my hand. Come on, there's the Emrakul, a Fury, and a Solitude. Bear in mind, there's a lot of targets on the other side for a Fury and a Solitude. We'll see how he wants to go about this. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it is September, so if you've got a spare Prime or you want to subscribe to this channel, it brings you the best paper coverage out there. This is the month to do it in. I believe you get like 30% off new subscriptions. And what better way to use your subscription than on this channel? You don't want adverts? Easy. Subscribe, support this channel. Let's get anew to more future paper events so you can bring this sort of high-level coverage to you. Attack, block. We're going to gain 3 life. Solitude's going to go to the graveyard.
Yeah, and there has to be like literal minutes in the round, if any. So, yeah, it would take a miracle for Neptune to win this game, and let alone the match. So,
extra turns on the thing about, there you go, extra turns. It's going to come through. And the good thing about Emrakul is you get to take one of your opponent's extra turns. Victor.
Oh,
just needs-
I remember that it was so confusing when it was a widely played card, Emrakul, and people trying to figure out how it works with extra turns, and all the shenanigans. Like there was also a rule that like whether you can concede or look at your sideboard when you're the opponent, right? So of course you cannot concede as them, but there was a question if you can look at their sideboard, for example.
Oh,
So a lot of rules had to be ironed out. Extra turn sideboard because of extra turns
It makes
effect.
sense as Khan. You know what I mean? Khan's in the format. I'm gonna down tick you. I want to look at your sideboard. Let's go. You know what I mean? That's interesting.
Yep.
But we're just going to go for a Fury here by the looks of it. With a trigger, that's going to draw a card. 4 damage, get on off the battlefield. I think it's just, you need to win this game. I do not. I'm 1 game up. I get to play it safe. And potentially, in the last 2 turns, I could just cast the Emrakul. So
Yeah, and so I feel like I knew what the result is going to be. I just misplaced the 1. So it's not 001, it's 100. I was close.
It's how both these decks kind of line up, right? They're both trying to do the same sort of thing, go long, but who can go over the top of the other one is going to be the question. We see 2 cards drawn, 2 cards ditched. That's a Teferi and the 1 ring in the graveyard for Neptune, searching for a way. How can I get 16 points of damage done to Victor's face over the space of a couple of turns? Is it even possible? We'll find out now as Victor's going to fetch.
What's particularly interesting about this game and this match is that the 1 ring had barely any impact on the games, right? Like it was basically non-existent. It was mostly discarded and once maybe drew like 1 card or 2. But like the game really centered all around up the Beanstalk.
Yeah, you're completely right. The new card from Wilds of the Dream, we're seeing how good that is going to be. I knew the man that runs this channel was super hyped about it in Legacy, but here it is in Modern. Kind of being, an all-star right now. It's doing really, really well. I'm going to be interested to see how it does line up against the Bowmaster deck. So that's why, that's why I'm going to be interested in seeing. But that's potentially future rounds. Right now, Victor just needs to secure this win. 5 mana. That is a Solitude. Draw a card. Comes down.
Oh,
Solitude into a
subtlety. Well, subtlety in this spot is like such an unbelievably temporary measure, because not only are you prolonging the inevitable, but the opponent will just play it again next turn for half their mana and draw another card. So
Victor says he's going to put it to the bottom, and of course we can hear that because we do have mics down for the players now, as well as player cameras, hand cameras, overshot cameras, turn and view cameras. The production level is immaculate. We have to point that out, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching some of the best coverage that has ever happened in Magic the Gathering right now on this channel, as we are in turn to both these players. Victor 1 game up with the new card from Wilds of
when you
the
told
Drain.
us, I was starting with my turn, I was 0.
Okay, there we
okay,
go.
explain to the judge
4 mana.
which turn that is.
Again,
They're playing it out.
we wouldn't have known that if it wasn't for the fact there was mics down there, which shows that the
Whoa,
production
how convenient.
is improving. Crazy. So this is turn 1 for Neptune. Turn 2 will be Victor. 3 Neptune, 4 Victor, and 5 Neptune, unless an Emrakul comes down on that 4th turn. So it means he takes Neptune's 5th turn, because Neptune does not know about this Emrakul. There is not an open deck this tournament.
Fill this out.
That's a fire and ice. Is it going to do 2 damage or is it tapping? Okay, it looks like 5.
And he says, well, okay, resolves.
Fire
Okay,
results.
pass.
You can take the 2
Wow.
damage. It's cool.
Draw.
The
This
only
is
thing to make
nice.
it even more messy is just like wait until like turn 4 and then play Emrakul and
Yeah.
call the judge to ask how it should work, even though it's literally over.
I think we might see now.
Rub the salt.
It's,
Okay, let's see.
let's have a little listen and see what's going on. Counting the mana. That's got to be scary for Neptune. I count 10 mana.
Oh, so it's
Nine.
10, it's
That's
11. Oh
10.
yeah, we're doing it. Whoa.
And scoop. And scoop off of the handshake. Congratulations to Vic taking that down with an Emrakul. We got there, chat. We got there. He gave us what we needed, what we wanted. That is impressive stuff there. But of course, we do have backup feature matches for you all. We know it is Dimir Control versus Boris Byrne. We did catch game number 1. We're going to jump into game number 2. But I'm seeing a chalice on the battlefield on 1 versus a Swift Spear and a Rift Bolt. Spell Pierce in the graveyard. And Sken, only 1 land here for Nath on the right of your screen. Just passing the turn back here for Danny.
Yeah, it seems to me that Nathaniel really likes one-landers with Burn. And I've been told by other Burn players, because I'm the furthest from an aggro player that you could imagine, that you just should not keep one-landers. You just shouldn't, right? You can consider it if it's like one lander, maybe like 4 Goblin Guides and something. But by and large, you just shouldn't, because even though your curve is low, you actually have to be able to unload everything fast enough, right? We talked about it last game. And if you can't, you'll lose, right? You have to keep up. So keeping one lander is pretty tricky.
Well, here comes the Taylor Swift Spear coming across. Remember, does have 1 Prowess trigger on the stack for it, so it is going to be a 2/3. Danny's going to fetch up potentially a Black Source. That is a Sunken Hollow, I believe. So it comes into play untapped because 2 basics are controlled on the battlefield. That is a very fancy one as well. I think that is the first Expedition type art ones that came out. And
oh my god, take
and steal it. I would like a Taylor Swift Spear. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's tapped. It's tapped. Remember that. Now pass the turn back. That's one way of getting.
And now it untaps, yeah.
Chalice.
Okay. And now it untaps, and yeah, I think Nathaniel is dead. So this is the thing. Even if he top decks a land, and if that's a big if, there won't be enough time because he will be casting a 2-drop every turn, which will take him like 5 turns to unload. Okay, and he did. Oh, it's a pain land as well. No.
Yeah, no idea when you're kind of getting into a racing situation. We see Counterspell, the 1 ring, and double Cedric's Edict in hand. So creature's not really going to stick on this battlefield any longer. Counterspell's going to be able to take out potentially this spell here that we see here, Boris Charm, that's going to get counterspelled.
Yeah, the fastest counterspell ever.
What's your favorite art on Counterspell?
That one, but the original like old frame. But this art, yeah.
Okay, interesting. A lot of control players love this art. I really like they did the alternate like Japanese type like lightning bolts and stuff like that, and then one of them was a counterspell. I really like that one. I thought that was really cool art.
Well, I just play OG arts if possible, so basically that's why. Well, to be fair, if there was an ugly art that was original, I would have chosen that anyways.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
We do get another land drop here on the right of the screen. This time, this one only going to take damage from it once. It is a fetch land if and when we choose to fire that off. And remember, we've got a couple of land full cards in the deck, so it might be relevant later on, especially where now there is actually a creature on the other side. Danny's controlling. Just getting this bit of chip damage in though. Doesn't need to go crazy. Decided not to deploy the 1 ring. Remember, there is a chalice on the battlefield, so all 1-drop spells potentially could get countered if Danny remembers the trigger. Always got to try and play into it. Wasn't too bad when he had a Swift Spear because every spell that did get countered at least was a trigger on the Swift Spear, but we're long past that now as we're going to fetch up a basic mountain. And probably
so Danny's at 8, so you could go like Boros Charm plus Bolt, and Bolt doesn't work. Oh god.
No.
Never mind. It's difficult.
It's very difficult here.
It's difficult, yeah. And also, Danny doesn't even deploy the 1 ring, and I'm not sure if that's a hot take or cold take, but I personally, when I play blue decks, I just side them out against Burn, because they're actually a huge liability, because Burn players can play around the protection with instant speed. The only thing you're fogging is a single combat. So Danny might just be unable to ever deploy it.
It's going to be on. Did we bring in any way to destroy artifacts? If we didn't, I guess we still got a game. If we haven't, it's going to be really, really rough because we're going to get beaten down 1 point a turn by our own creature. That's okay. We got another counter spell in hand. I was going to say the 1 ring double move spell that we knew about, but then we've also picked up one of the new ones, which I cannot remember for the life of me what it is. It's the 1-drop blue counter target creature with power toughness 2 or less.
Yeah, stern scolding.
Thank you, Stern Scolding.
Yeah. Actually, so guys, this might be another take, which is hot or cold, but I would also not even side in Chalice against Burn, probably, for two reasons. One, it actually shuts off a bunch of your cards, like Preordain, Stern Scolding, Spell Pierce, Fatal Push, probably. And it doesn't actually hit that much in a Thales deck because it doesn't target Rift Bolt, Skewer the Critics, Boros Charm, Skull Crack. I'm just riffing off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Roiling Vortex, potentially Eidolon. So there's actually so much it doesn't hit. It hits Lightning Bolt and Lava Spike and creatures, but you don't want to play Chalice, against creatures because they will have already been played.
Yeah, it's a good take. You know, I mean, depending on how maybe you just had nothing better to bring in, and maybe you thought, oh, this is better than Thoughtseizes or something like that.
Oh, and I got an official, official agreement from Jarvis U regarding my analysis. So yes, let's go.
That's all we need. You know what I mean? Jarvis, I believe Jarvis is casting tomorrow on this channel. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We've got action-packed casters all weekend long. 4 today, 4 tomorrow. Today it's me, myself, and I, and Skewer on it in front. Then we're going to be passing off to Dom and Tim later on for the afternoon shift because obviously we are in Europe, so we get to do the early ones. From all, everyone gets a little bit more time in bed because we've been awake for many hours at this point. And I think we're just going through the motions here of here's all my one drops. Yep, I couldn't cast any of these, and Danny is taking this game down at 2-0. Just the way you want to be starting off your tournament this weekend, right? With 366 players, starting off on a win is going to give you the best chance to get that day number 2 and get yourself a good interaction to win your share of $20,000 this weekend. But not all is lost. If you do pick up a loss, there's lots of time to try and claw yourself back. We even saw that at the Pro Tour with one of our casters later on this afternoon, Dominic Harvey, managed to start 0-2 at the Pro Tour, but yet sneaking in 8th place, getting himself a top 8 at the Pro Tour. So everything can still be playful for both of these players. I'm sure we'll see them throughout the weekend long. But I think that is going to be the end of our round, particularly because that's going to be 2 games and we don't have any more feature matches beyond that. I'm going to see what Anu's going to say in my ear any second now, what he wants us to do. And it looks like we're going to pass straight back to him. So that's the end of round 1. My name is Will Hall. That is Skewer. And we'll see you for round number 2 shortly. See you soon.